Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Hot Seat Interview. I, of course, am your host, Leo Brady, film critic for AMovieGuy.com. And I am so excited to be here today with somebody who you may not know his face, but you certainly know his voice. We're here to talk about the available release DVD Blu-ray for his film, The SpongeBob Movie, Search for SquarePants. This is the voice of SpongeBob, Tom Kenny. Thanks for being with me here.
Hey, after seeing my face, you can never unsee it. Sorry about that, but yeah, I'm gonna let me put on my special interview glasses. Yeah,
Yeah, of course. So, Tom,
makes me appear smarter.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know how I conduct this show, but the first question that we ask everybody is what is a movie for you that maybe you saw as a kid growing up that
Great.
made you say, I want to be an actor, I want to work in movies, I want to work in animation.
Yeah, wow. There's a few of those movies that mind blowers that just kind of put you, kind of like friends of mine that are a little older that saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, and then they all played in bands and things. Get me a guitar for Christmas, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's everybody has that. Everybody that I know in the business has that. So that's a great question. For me, a lot of it wasn't so much theatrical movies as just TV cartoons, especially those weird old ones like the Max Fleischer Brothers cartoons, Betty Boop, Popeye, that they would show on your local station in the morning on 30 below zero days before you would go to school. And those just made me crazy. Like I knew they were old, but they also seemed kind of mysterious, and they had these hot jazz soundtracks and Cab Calloway and Louis Armstrong, like all this kind of rock and roll stuff, but it wasn't rock and roll. It sounded kind of ancient and new and futuristic all at the same time, looked ancient and new and futuristic all at the same time. That stuff is mind blower. And then in terms of movies, a lot of it was just Saturday afternoon movie stuff. The original King Kong, all those Ray Harryhausen movies, those Sinbad movies, and
Jason and the Argonauts.
Jason and the Argonauts, stuff like that. Those were perennials on TV, and they all featured animation. Right? Like, even though as a little kid, you're just seeing, wow, that Cyclops, look at that Cyclops fighting that guy. That's amazing. Like, I know it's not real, but how do they do that?
Yeah.
And that stuff just all blew my mind. And then a lot of the comedy too. Like when I was a kid, there was only 3 channels. We didn't get cable till I was a teenager, so you just watched what your local station had. And luckily, a lot of that was old Abbott and Costello movies, Marx Brothers. The PBS station showed a lot of old silent films. And so I kind of grew up loving all this stuff that I was way too young to know about.
Right.
But I don't know. I just fell in love with that stuff. But I also loved all the contemporary things too. And it's all in there. Leo. Like it kind of takes over. And next thing you know, you're us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's interesting too. For me, my first introduction to you was obviously Mr. Show. I mean, like,
wow,
that was, in my opinion, pretty landmark, sketch comedy show. Pretty big moment for you. You meet your wife on that show.
Yeah.
And now Bob Odenkirk and David Cross and you're all kind of like huge names, and you've gone on to totally different projects. Was that sort of what you thought that collective group would be doing eventually down the line? I mean, or was that certainly the goal?
That there was a whole group of people in Los Angeles, Cross, Odenkirk, my wife Jill Talley, me, a whole bunch of people that were kind of doing alternative comedy where it was a little too weird to be at like the Comedy Store or something like that. A little too strange. And it wasn't really improv either. It was just kind of sketch comedy, but very elliptical with crazy connective tissue between the sketches. And Bob and David, geniuses both, just kind of started doing a night at various venues in LA and kind of created this alternative comedy scene. And a lot of people that are big now were peripheral to it. Some of them more than peripheral. Sarah Silverman was always around.
Right.
Jack Black. When I met him, he was sleeping on a futon in his mother's house. Jack Black. Huge. So yeah, it was a really heady time to be around, and we were just making stupid stuff. And then, against all odds, Bob and David sold this show to HBO, Mr. Show with Bob and David. I knew David from stand-up days because
Yep.
I had been a stand-up.
Yep.
He wanted me on the show. Jill had been in Second City in Chicago with Odenkirk. He
Yeah.
brought her in through that avenue, and it's funny. Well, slight correction: we didn't meet on Mr. Show. We met on an earlier. Jill and I met on an earlier, one season, one and done, not very successful early Fox Network show called The Edge. That was a sketch show. It only lasted one season, and that's when Fox was on TV only like 3 nights a week.
Right.
Like The Simpsons was still a little tiny segment on the Tracy Ullman show.
Yeah.
It was those days.
Okay.
And so we did one season. It was Jennifer Aniston's series before she moved on to Friends.
Right.
A little show called Friends. And then Wayne Knight, who I just ran into 2 days ago for the first time in years and years and years, Newman on Seinfeld,
Yeah.
he was in the show with us too. And it was, so there's all this crazy talent
All connected.
orbiting around, and,
Yeah.
and we all got along. Yeah, and Bob and David made it happen, and that show was just wonderful. And then Joe and I obviously worked on Mr. Show, and
Yeah.
got married in 1996.
Wow.
So yeah, because she was pregnant during the last final season. What's
Wow.
funny is I only did 3 of the 4 seasons of Mr. Show because
Yeah.
I got the call that this little show called SpongeBob SquarePants
Right.
was going,
Yeah.
and it was they're like, I can't do both of these things. There's not enough hours in the day,
Yeah.
to do all this voiceover stuff and do the show. So I reluctantly left Mr. Show, but Jill stayed on, very pregnant for the 4th season,
Yeah.
and yeah, but you're
Great.
right. Thanks for bringing that up. It is kind of a seminal show, but not a whole ton of people know about it. Like,
Right.
and what's funny is when I appear at Comic Cons and things like that, there's younger people who are just finding out about it and
Right.
delving into it, and it's kind of like, wait, what? This harmonic convergence of people. It's kind of mind blowing for them. They're like, I didn't even know this existed. What the heck?
Yeah.
I thought you were always a voiceover guy,
Yeah.
and so yeah, interesting, great show, and fondly remembered by us. We're still all friends. In fact, I think sometime in April, we're doing a reunion for a charity, a Mr. Show reunion in LA.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So now Search for SquarePants. This was the 6th SpongeBob movie. I would say doing half a dozen movies means you like doing them. But for you, with doing SpongeBob, what's your sort of preferred format? Do you like doing the movies more than the show? Is it just, and is it a different type of muscle for you on doing the vocal work for that?
It's kind of the exact same muscle because you're just in the job has always the job description, the mission is always just inhabiting the character,
Yeah.
making him work, selling this thing,
Yeah.
just being the voice box of this marionette that's got 500 strings,
Yeah.
the marionette being the characters and the movie and everything else, and you're just one string of it.
Yeah.
But I've always looked at myself like that. And that's what I love about sketch comedy and ensemble. That's what I loved about Mr. Show. And I feel like that's what animation brings you to. There's a
Right.
collaborative aspect to it that stand-up comedy, which I made a living at for a while, did not offer me.
Yeah.
It's just you. And
Yeah.
some people love that because they don't play well with others. I love playing well with others. So it was yeah, it's the same. I guess the main difference would be when you do the TV episodes, which I'm doing one today,
Yeah.
you do top to bottom, you do the 11-minute episode,
Right.
and you have a little bit longer gestation period with the features, so you can just attack a scene or two
Right.
and nudge it and
Yeah.
nip and tuck.
Okay.
And that's what we did. And since the beginning, since Stephen Hillenburg and onward to today, they've always been very nice about letting the cast try things and ad lib,
Right.
within the scene.
Yeah.
As long as you're still getting the job done of the scene, and that's really fun as an actor to be given that. I
Yeah.
won't say carte blanche because it's not total, but
Yeah.
if the little secret sauce that you want to put on it or add to it makes sense, it often gets in the show
Yeah.
and the movie.
Yeah. Well, and I have to ask this question, especially before I go, because I have an 8-year-old who absolutely loves SpongeBob. And his question, if I'm remembering it correctly, that he wanted me to ask you was obviously SpongeBob has to be your favorite character. But if you had to pick a character in the show outside of yourself, who would be your favorite character on the show?
Wow. Ju-
Yeah.
ju- Judging by that question, I have a feeling that I'm going to be doing your kids' YouTube channel very soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say my favorite. Great question. And
Yeah.
SpongeBob is my favorite character, and I feel like we share brain space and we share kind of a life philosophy. SpongeBob and I. Part of
Yeah.
the reason, a pretty large part of the reason I got cast as SpongeBob was that Hillenburg said, "You're this guy. I don't need to look at anybody else."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was the first one to read for it. He didn't look, he was like, "Yep, good. He's
Yeah.
SpongeBob." Just moving on to the other ones, and I would say, but if I could play a character within SpongeBob, probably Squidward. I love Squidward. Not that I could ever replace Roger Bumpus's perfect line readings because
Yes.
he inhabits Squidward perfectly. I think all the actors inhabit their characters perfectly on the show. Steve was very
Yeah.
perceptive about that from the
Yeah.
get-go. I've
Yep.
never he's unlike anybody else I've ever worked with. But yeah, SpongeBob's my favorite character, and Squidward is the character that I secretly would love to
To
be.
do.
Yeah, secretly. I'm secretly really jealous of Roger Bumpus. So yes, is it a son or a daughter?
Son. Yeah, he's 8 years
Wow.
old. We watched the movie together. We've seen it twice now. He loves it, and
Oh, butt humor.
yes, exactly. We say to each other forever, 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 ever, forever.
Forever, ever.
Yeah,
Forever, ever, ever. Forever.
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
great.
So,
Well, he sounds like a very perceptive, deep thinking fellow.
yes.
So, and thank you for that great question.
Yeah, I will. All right. So, SpongeBob: The Search for SquarePants is going to be available on DVD, Blu-ray, and Blu-ray Steelbook on March 31st. Tom Kenny, thank you so much for being with me here today.
Thanks so much, Leo. Are you a physical media guy?
I am. I love it.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
It drives my wife crazy.
I know. Yeah.
She's like, you have to get rid of some of these Blu-rays. But it's like, she's like, half of them still have the shrink wrap on them.
That's how it goes, man. You start collecting, and then you just
Yeah.
watch them when you can.
And you're like, well, I'm happy to be employed and working every day, but man, it'd be nice to sit on my square butt and watch movies once in a while.
Yeah,
Take the
exactly.
shrink wrap off. The Blu-ray's not my butt. I don't. My butt is not shrink wrap.
Yeah.
But thank you. So I just wanted to clear that up. Full
Yeah.
disclosure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Tom.
talking about Mr. Show and
Yeah.
SpongeBob with me.
Yeah,
And,
appreciate it.
can't wait to see that Blu-ray of Search for SquarePants.
Yeah, fantastic. Have a good one.
Bye, Leo.
Bye-bye.